Welcome to the Side Action Podcast, the sports gambling show that covers everything in the world of sports betting from A through Z. We'll cover the four major sports, as well as anything and everything in between worth some action, and will increase the size of your bankroll. And here we go.
All right, welcome to the Side Action, episode 17 of season 4. My name is Jim Weglars, a.k.a. Wegs. You can follow me at Wegspool on Twitter and on Instagram.
And I'm Steve Roberts, a.k.a. Action. You can follow me on Twitter at 31sroberts.
Oh, the podcast is Side Action Pod on Twitter. So my voice is back, Action, or almost back. It's probably like 95%, so it's not too bad. Thanks for driving last week. You're in different digs this week. You're down in Indy seeing the family, huh?
Yeah, here in Fishers, Indiana, at my brother's house in his home office here, so a little different background, but I think the listeners are happy to have our number one QB back under center here, Wags, driving the show, so hopefully we can get the offense rolling this week.
Well, all I know is we went 5-0, Action, so there may be an angle there. We'll have to check the cap on that, but
True.
But yeah, for our listeners, we did go 5-0. We'll talk about more later, but we had a really great week in the Circa contest. We vaulted up the standings, so more on that later. I am wearing my Circa $1,000,002 hat too, right? We gave 2. No, this is 3. Yeah. I got the 3 hat. For some reason, I thought we gave it to Dave. Maybe he gave it back. He probably gave it back. But anyway, yeah, I'm just pretty much hanging around Chicago, so we'll be watching some movies. My daughter Sophia's back, so that's exciting. Didn't have too much action over the weekend. After 4 or 5 days straight of going out, my voice needed a break, so once I picked up Sophia, I've kind of throttled down on the partying. I know you were concerned about me, so thank you. Thanks for those messages and well wishes by our listeners.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that you're focused in here. Home stretch for the contest, so all the more reason to do some digging and reading and trying to figure out who's on the COVID list and who's off the COVID list. It's like a never-ending saga.
It's insane. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, Action. The lines are moving crazily as a result, so we'll have to try to sort through the noise. But thankfully, last week we did what we needed to do and came through. So, well, let's jump into it for the recap for Week 15. Again, we've seen a correction. We've talked about this now for this third straight week. Underdogs came in at 6-10 against the spread, which is a total, reversal from the first few weeks of the year, the first 10, 12 weeks. Now in Week 15, road dogs were 4-6 against the spread. We, even unders flipped. We had 10-6 to the over this week. Road teams about split 8-8. But we did have 2 games affected by the spread this week. Didn't affect us, thankfully. But, the Green Bay was one of those off the top of my head. And what was the other one? Was it Cleveland again? It was a low-scoring game. But Cleveland was against Green Bay. What was the other game? I'm blanking right now.
I don't recall. Was Pittsburgh and Tennessee? Perhaps? No, that was a pick'em.
That one was close. But yeah, anyway, it did affect it a couple of times, which is unique. But for the most part, favorites are coming back with a vengeance. They didn't win last night. We'll talk about that game a little bit with the 49ers. But so, yeah, what do you think's going on? You think it's just time for the better teams to kind of take control?
Yeah, you're seeing some separation here from the top, as Levi thinks so too.
I think the dogs are barking. The dogs are not barking.
That's right. No, I just think that the better teams in the league are separating themselves. There's pretty clear line between the top 10 and the bottom 22, in my opinion. So you're seeing some of these bigger numbers, and some of the favorites are getting home, as we saw last week with our picks.
Right. Absolutely. I see you brought up a question here. What do you think of the Christmas schedule effect teams prep this week? Do you think the road team has an advantage? I'm not sure. I don't know. And traditionally, this is usually, I guess, the second to last. This is our first 18-week season, so you've got 3 weeks to go. Normally, this week is in the mix, but you do have games on Christmas Day. There's 2 on Christmas Day, and then obviously about the balance on Sunday and Monday. The following week, I believe, maybe it's the same thing. I didn't even look at the schedule, so there is a bit of an adjustment. I think the final week of the season, everything's on Sunday, though. They don't have Saturday games because of the college playoffs or something like that. So Maybe that's next week too, because it's the 31st is when the playoff games start for college. But
Yeah, no Saturday games next week. It looks like all Sunday and a single Monday nighter on January 3rd. So, but I've heard some in the sports gambling media suggest that at least for the Sunday games, some of those teams that are at home on Saturday are going to have family time, at least in the morning, before they make their trip to their local hotel as they normally do on Saturday night. And so they're just going to lose a little bit of focus because they're at home and they have the family time Saturday morning before they really get into preparation later in the evening.
Right. It certainly could be an angle. I think it depends on the team. There's a lot of things not as we talked about. It's a little crazy what's happening. So I just think the better coaches are going to have their teams prepared. That's kind of the way my theory. Even last night and Vrabel, and obviously they didn't play good in the first half, but man, they came around. So it's one of those things, preparation and then in-game, adjustments if coaches are still engaged,
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about last week's highs and lows. Your team, this is what's great about this show. You can just be a mouthpiece for the Colts fans, including action. I am a Colts fan now too. I did get to watch a little of Hard Knocks, the interim series, which is cool. And it's funny because when it comes in, it's right when the Colts are starting to catch fire. But the Colts offensive line, Colts and the offensive line, they went to the Patriots. This was one of our picks. They just came out and they really punched the Patriots in the mouth. They were up big in this game. Your guy, Mac Jones, did play very well in the fourth quarter and made it interesting. But Jonathan Taylor's, scamper at the end of the game for 66 yards to kind of clinch the game was incredible, allowing Wentz to only complete 4 or 5 passes in the game and win. But I think it's the offensive line is the story besides Jonathan Taylor, who I love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Even without Ryan Kelly, too, the center who unfortunately lost his baby, he and his wife, and so he didn't play. Very sad news. But despite Kelly being out, the offensive line was still fantastic, as they have been for the better part of the season once they got fully healthy. And Jonathan Taylor is reaping the benefits of that, certainly. I'm wondering about Carson Wentz, though. He threw a really bad interception late in that game.
Triple coverage.
Yeah, triple coverage, and that allowed the Patriots to get back in it and really close the gap there. And I fear that Carson Wentz's decision-making is going to make Reich even more conservative than he has been. And I think the offense is better when they're opening it up and trusting Wentz a little bit. But I understand why, because he makes those bad decisions.
It probably depends on the defense they're playing. We know the Patriots defense is not superior, but they do really good things and they disguise a lot. They got good pressure when they could. In that game, besides, the offensive line for the Colts, I think in the second half, especially the fourth quarter, the offensive line of the Patriots, oh man, they couldn't get to Jones. I was like, this guy got all day back there. Of course he's completing passes. It wasn't all just coming out quick. So, I'm looking at something sorry to go off the script here. It looks like there's something about fitness in this league. Like you saw this against when Tampa, remember when they were playing whoever the other week, the Bills, the second half, these fourth quarters, it seems like the teams aren't in as good a shape as they should be at this point of the year, where the fourth quarters teams are tiring out. The team that's coming back not has an advantage, but look, even Green Bay, they could barely get Baltimore and get that win against Baltimore. So there's something to it about, getting those teams that are just gassed. You got to get off the field on third down early. Otherwise, it's a long fourth quarter for your team.
Yeah, definitely, especially against a good running team.
Mm-hmm. The second one was the Saints. This is Saints D versus Tampa. And now, granted, it was a weird game for Tampa. They ended up losing half their offensive starters. Godwin got knocked out. Fournette, Mike Evans got knocked out too. It was like everybody on that team was getting hurt. But Dennis Allen had to step in as the head coach for this week. He has the blueprint to slow down this Tampa team. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but he's done it 4 times in the regular season. They should have beat him in the playoffs last year, hint. But they win 9-0 at Tampa, which is, Tampa's been covering against everybody there. So, they obviously sacked Brady 4 times, and whatever. They limited him to 6 of 19 on third down. That's getting it done. So I don't know. Besides that, I mean, Tampa, this Saints team is really hard to figure out, but against Tampa, it's easy to pick.
Yeah, right. They definitely have Tampa's number. I think, though, losing some of the offensive starters, Mike Evans went out as well, and they've now lost Fournette for probably the rest of the regular season. I think that is going to have a pretty big impact on the Tampa offense. They're just not the same. They don't have the same weapons, and it's clear that Brady has been reliant on those guys to be more efficient. So interesting. And then on the Saints side, I mean, what a great performance by that defense to hold the Buccaneers scoreless, regardless of who was on the field, was a really big performance. And I think credit goes to Allen, certainly.
Yeah, and Brady said, what did he say? Fuck you.
That's right. Very interesting. No flag, no taunting penalty there.
No taunting, but I mean, he's got. I mean, there's a couple of guys. You remember, back in the day, I think Rex Ryan or something used to have, a little bit of Brady's number. I like when Brady gets under his skin. He doesn't know what he's doing anymore. But I don't know. I mean, the Saints are on the cusp of the playoffs. It's possible they make it, but it's like I feel like they can beat the Bucs and nobody else when it comes to the playoffs. But
true.
We'll see. The other positive or high I had was Tyler Huntley. This dude, I mean, you texted me during the game, Lamar who? I mean, the kid is playing ball, and I like the way he runs the ball. I mean, it's not as many planned runs as Lamar. It's more scrambles, but I mean, he's not afraid to chuck the ball downfield, make some tough throws. They were getting beat pretty good in this game, but came back, and they ended up covering the numbers we mentioned already. But he's not turning the ball over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he seems to have more of a passing ability than Lamar too, which brings a whole nother dynamic to this offense. 28 out of 40 for 250 pass yards, 2 touchdowns, and then he had those 2 rushing scores late in the game too, which brought him close. And I think that you're seeing a Ravens offense that is able to put more points on the board without Lamar, coincidentally. And I mean, you've seen last week that number went way over the total against the Packers, and I think that. Again, this week against the Bengals, we're looking at another high-scoring affair because it looks like Huntley's going to be under center again.
Well, will the Ravens go for 2 again? This is 3 straight weeks action. They've been denied, and 2 of them they would have won the game. The other one they would have tied. They had to go for 2. Interesting decisions by John Harbaugh, and they're actually on the outside looking in right at the moment, but they've been a playoff team pretty much all year. It's a really big game on Sunday. We'll talk about it in a minute. On the lows, the Chargers on 4th down. This helped. At least I had the Chiefs. In my pick'em. I'm doing really well in the contest, by the way. My pick'em league now. But Brandon Staley, we talked about this early in the year. He loves analytics. He's all about going for 4th down. They got stuffed early in the game, which maybe I could see. Then they went for it on like the 20 or something and missed that. I know they love kicking against the Chiefs, but it did come back to haunt them in a way. I mean, a lot of people will defend this, but 2 of 5 on 4th down, 0-3 in the red zone, and they lose the game in overtime, 34-28, which was an epic game. I love that game on Thursday. But what are your thoughts on all these decisions?
Yeah, kind of forgotten about it because it was so long ago, it seems. But, Staley has proven that he's going to make that decision every time, and he's not wavering. And it appears that his players and coaching staff are on the same page because they all have the same mantra. I think he's come out and said that even in the playoffs, he's going to play that way. So, they have an expectation. They have the playbook for it. And so I expect they're going to continue to do it. However, it certainly can bring some wild swings in Chargers games because you might have one week where they're going to hit those at like 80% or another week like last week where it's 40, and it's really big change in the game in terms of scoring.
Well, and they got to run the ball on 4th and 1. I mean, they did it 3 times where they tried to do basically a pass on 4th and 1. I know they got Herbert. He's their best player, but just run the football, guys. Come on. But Chiefs got it done again, another win and another cover in this particular case. The last one was the Cardinals in the red zone. I mean, we were on this game. Detroit played great. Your new hometown team was awesome. But when I looked at the box score, I didn't realize that the Cardinals never scored in the red zone. They were 0-4 in the red zone, whether it's either turnovers or on downs. They lost 30-12, but But man, that was really, I mean, obviously they're not unblemished on the road, both against the spread and in general, but that was an interesting turn of events.
Yeah, the Lions really dominated the Cardinals on Sunday. There's no question about that final score, 30-12. But you're right. I mean, the total yards was pretty close. The Cardinals had almost 400 yards of offense in the game. They were certainly moving the ball and really kind of even in the box score, except for those red zone miscues, which ultimately cost the Cardinals.
It matters a lot. I mean, they don't really have, I mean, with Hopkins out, they don't have like the go-to receiver, and they aren't really committed to the run in the red zone, which is always important to have that. So we'll see going forward. They got a big game against your team tomorrow.
Yeah, James Conner's banged up too, which doesn't help them running the ball. Although I think Edmonds came back last week.
Yeah, he's coming back. Well, let's talk about the big topic, key injuries and the COVID stuff. I mean, this is nuts. The Chiefs, I listed there, Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce appear that they're going to miss, although Hill, I don't know if he can come back, I don't know if he's vaccinated or not, but I've got him out for now. Have you seen any news on those guys?
I'm reading that both of them are unlikely to test out. At least they haven't yet. They've got one more day tomorrow, which I understand the new rules allow them to potentially test out, but also the kicker, Harrison Butker. So they're going to be looking to sign a backup kicker as well. Could be tough for them on Sunday without those two weapons.
So this week it's the Jets that have everybody on the list, 17 players in the head coach, Robert Saleh. So I would guess that's lining up against the Jets. It's too bad because they're playing the Jags. Battle for the number one pick, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's any possibility of moving this game. I haven't heard much of that, but
good point. Me neither.
Probably a stay away.
Yeah.
But this Saints quarterback room, you've got Trevor Siemian and Taysom Hill on the COVID list. Ian Book, your once great Notre Dame quarterback, Ian Book is supposed to start. That explains that line movement, I guess, against the Dolphins.
Yeah, so now they're without Winston, who was the regular starter, and second and third string. They're really down to their fourth string quarterback now. And Book was great at Notre Dame, but this will be his real first test in the NFL level. And you're right, you've seen the line move almost up to 3 now with Miami.
Yeah, and the Finns have won 6 straight, so they're still in the playoff hunt. They got to keep winning, as is the Saints are in there too. Jared Goff on the COVID list. Tim Boyle. I mean, we know the offense. Actually, Goff played pretty good last week. I want to give him some credit. I'm an anti-golfer, an anti-vaxxer, anti-golfer. But Tim Boyle is got to be a downgrade for the Lions.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, he had one game where he saw some action earlier this year. I think he threw for like 80 yards and 2 interceptions against the Browns. So definitely a huge downgrade for the Lions as they go on the road to Atlanta.
Right. You've noticed Chris Godwin tore his ACL. That's a bummer. He had a great season, so he'll be out for, that's a big weapon. And with Antonio Brown kind of, God knows where he is with his fake vaccination card, and Mike Evans kind of dinged up. This really affects the offense. You've got Fournette is placed on IR. What was his injury?
It was some sort of foot injury, but he's on IR at least for the end of the regular season. Potentially could return in the playoffs.
Yeah, Levante David, their linebacker, is on IR with a foot injury as well. So there's a lot of – this is the thing about repeating in the NFL. This is why it doesn't happen very often, because injuries are such a big part of the game, and it's very hard to be, injury-free for multiple years. And we even saw it with the Chiefs last year. Their offensive line just got decimated as the season went on, and they couldn't get it done. So this is tough because as good as Brady has been, and maybe he is in the MVP conversation, but – without those weapons, with 3 weeks to go, he may not do much.
Yeah. Antonio Brown is set to return this week from his suspension. So it looks like he's going to be back out there, which will be one offset to all these losses.
Right. Minnesota's got both their top running backs on the COVID list with Dalvin Cook and Madison. So that's rough. I'm not sure who the next guy is, but we'll see that they've been churning and they've been making some plays. Is there any chance for these guys to return this week?
I don't think so. No, Madison has been on there quite a few days. I think he was very early in the week. So potentially, I'm not sure of his vaccination status, but I think Dalvin Cook has already been ruled out.
Right. The other team that's getting affected by COVID is the Texans have 18 players on the list.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're playing, let's see, Texans I got against, they're playing the Chargers. So obviously it's going to be a popular pick in a contest.
I think so.
But they may move the game, but I don't know if they will. But we'll see. They haven't been playing great anyway. And then Lamar Jackson is unlikely to play. So our guy, Tyler Huntley, looks like he's going to be in again for the Ravens against the Bengals, which, it's a huge game in the division there. And lastly, Teddy Covers out, concussion. He got knocked out in that game, the last game, but he still, actually we didn't pick this game, but the Bengals got to the window against them. They won 15-10. Drew Lock will start in Vegas, which I guess we could talk about that in the handicaps, but that theoretically is a downgrade, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I would say, even though Teddy's no high flyer putting points on the board, but Drew Lock and his abilities to throw interceptions is pretty good. So I think at least 2 to 3 points in my mind, downgrade.
Gotcha. Let's talk about the power rankings. Not a lot of changes, just kind of some movements, and maybe I didn't update this. I know I did. So the Bills, I still have number one. I know the Bills, you can't. Their body of work is too good, apparently, even though they're 8-6 and everything. Cowboys, though, are number two by themselves now. The Legs Index. You've got the Cardinals and Patriots tied at 3, essentially. Then the Bucks at 5. Then your Colts at 6. The Rams jump up. They've had 2 good performances at 7. Packers and Chiefs. I listed all of them because these are kind of in my pool, these are the guys who could potentially win the title.
Sure.
I don't think we'll be out of this personally, although the Titans, if they get Derrick Henry the way that they played with nobody, it's possible, right? But how does that compare to your DVOA?
Pretty close. I think really the one oddball there between these two lists is the Arizona Cardinals. It's a team that had a lot of good numbers early on in the season, but recently with some of their losses, J.J. Watt on the defensive line, I think has been a huge loss for that unit. And then DeAndre Hopkins, they're certainly not the same team that they have been according to the metrics. So that's probably the one team that I would think is really should be manually downgraded, if you will. But on the DVOA side, Bucks are number one, followed by the Cowboys, Bills, Rams, and Patriots, rounding out the top 5. And then the Chiefs, Niners, and Colts are just a hair behind.
Now, was this after the game last night with the Niners or before?
Before, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, certainly a tough loss for them in Tennessee.
Yeah, it was bad. They should have, well, we'll talk about that in 2 seconds. Nice transition, action. So that's what they call a transition of the biscuit, everybody. So we've got week 16, the Lions. So the game already happened last night. 49ers went to the Tennessee. Interesting game action. The game opened, Tennessee is a short favorite, but obviously flipped to the 49ers because they've been winning so well. But this team came out 10-0. Jimmy G threw a bad pick in the end zone that probably should have been another score, and then he threw another pick at some point. 10-0 at halftime, and then the second half, it was the A.J. Brown show. They could not stop that dude, and he had, I don't remember the final total, 142 yards or something receiving. I don't understand the coverage, to be honest with you. Nobody else was catching the football. Yeah. But Tannehill made a good run. They ended up winning the game outright, 20-17, after Jimmy G did take him down for a long drive. But, Deebo Samuel is also a beast. Those two guys, Samuel and A.J., were just incredible, but kind of a bad loss for the Niners. The Titans now, with a Colts loss, will secure the division.
Yeah.
I think Colts are probably going to win this week, but it looks like the Titans are in line to win this division still, which really helps their chances, especially when they get Henry back.
Yeah, definitely. As a Colts fan, that was certainly a bummer last night because I thought the Niners were primed to win that game. Yeah. But they just couldn't stop A.J. Brown late. He was getting a little handsy on some of those. I think there could have been an OPI in there too.
Oh, he threw that guy down.
From my perspective, but he definitely is a big boon for that offense to get him back now because Julio Jones is in and out of the lineup and obviously can't stay healthy. So I'm still thinking the Colts have an outside chance, though. The Titans need to lose 2 more, which they're certainly capable of doing, and then the Colts have to run the table.
Right. They do. That would probably mean that the Titans have to lose to the Texans, but
right. True.
It's possible. Week 18. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I think the Colts are a better team, but what I will tell you, and we kind of traded text last night. I don't know. I mean, we've talked, there's a lot of candidates for the coaching of the year. It's hard to argue against Vrabel. I mean, this dude is getting his team up every week. This team was an offensive team the first 6 or 7 weeks. As soon as Henry went down, they've been a defensive team. They played a totally different way, and creatively somehow they should have beat the Steelers. I mean, we had the Steelers obviously in our contest, but they had tons of turnovers. They've been, if they don't have those turnovers, they're probably I mean, they're only a game off the 1 seed anyway. But
that's anyway. True. We didn't talk about that one, but I think you're right. I think the Titans were the side in that one. That was a lucky victory for us last week.
Yes. Well, we need some luck sometimes. So, okay, here's a big game. Green Bay, this is on Saturday, where I was like 4:30. So this is on the Saturday games. There's 2 Saturday games. The first one is Cleveland against Green Bay. Green Bay opens a 7-point favorite at home, 44.5-point total. It's really sitting there at 7 in the contest. Let me look at what I'm seeing it at the Pack. Yeah, 7.5 at Rivers, so right in that neighborhood. I'm showing 46. You got 45.5. So it's kind of been stable. I've heard Baker's supposed to play. I don't know if that's a good decision. Generally speaking, the Pack are great at home. This is a little bit bigger line than I would like to see it per the index. But besides last week, obviously they didn't cover against the Ravens, but this team is really good covering at home. I mean, I'm not saying we should put it in there, but it'd be a consideration for me, even though it's not necessarily an index pick.
Yeah, I understand the point, and the Packers have been sublime against the spread this year, 11-3 on the season, and 6-0 at home. So you can't argue with that. And on the other side, the Browns have not really been good at covering numbers. Only 1 out of their last 5 they've gotten to the window. Right. And I think some of that has been because of Baker and his lingering shoulder injury. They haven't been faring well on that side of the ball. But I do think that the Browns are going to have an advantage on offense in the run game because the Packers have not been able to stop the run this year. And Nick Chubb is healthy and averaging 5 yards a carry. So I think that 7 is a little bit too much, to be honest. I would probably lean to the Browns in this game if we were to put it in the pick'em contest.
Okay. I think we should stay away then. I mean, I'm not saying that I wouldn't get on board with you there because, like I said, I have 5.5 as my spread. It's a little heavy, but again, how often is the spread coming into effect, right? So to me, it's like, is Green Bay going to win the game? Probably. I mean, I've been on the Browns all year. I think the Browns should be better, but they just can't seem to, when they have big leads, they blow them. When they're in these kind of tougher games, they just can't seem to get it done on offense. And as much as Green Bay, their record, kind of like last year, is a little inflated, 11-3. They're the best record in the NFL right now. I don't know what it is. I mean, obviously we know Rodgers is a great player, but they somehow get it done, at least in the regular season. So let's stay away from it.
Packers are a great teaser leg this week at home. Take the 7 down to 1.
Good call. All right, so let's do Indy against Arizona. Arizona opens as a 5-point favorite at home, 49-point total. The Colts are showing as a 1-point favorite for the Colts now in the contest. It's kind of all over the place, man. This line keeps moving up and down. I'm seeing Rivers at Arizona 1.5, which is strange. I don't think it really matters. I still like the Colts because we're Colts backers, but is there a reason why we shouldn't be on the Colts and not think that this train, it's not just Jonathan Taylor, their defense is playing better and Arizona's trending down. I mean, and plus Arizona's not good at home, right? I don't know what the deal is. Is it a sucker play? I mean, what's the deal? Everybody's going to take the Colts, right?
I don't know, actually. I could see that some value pickers might be looking at Arizona in this game. I think really when you compare the metrics, I'm sure the WEGS index probably would suggest that Arizona is a better team, right?
Yeah.
Just looking at that number. But, I mean, you're spot on. Arizona has not been good at home this season, 2-4 against the spread. And I think that the Colts, I mean, we can say it over and over again, the Colts rush offense is going to have their way with the Cardinals. They're 28th in the league in run defense efficiency on first downs. Right. And I expect that Jonathan Taylor and I believe that Nyheim Hines is going to get involved tomorrow as well. So Ryan Kelly is going to be out, the center, but the backup Pinter played really well last week and actually grades out as a good run blocker. Not so well in pass game, but he's a good step in. And then the guard, Mark Lewinsky, was also put on the COVID list for the Colts. But I still think that the Colts run game is going to be able to do well, and I would like to take them in the contest as well.
Yeah, I think we just take them. I know that it's weird. You're right. The Cardinals are better in the WEGS index, but the teams are very close. I mean, they're tight, 1.5 difference, which is basically a point on a neutral. Mm-hmm. So you're talking about maybe really the line's about right, the 1.5, the current line. So I'm not surprised that the contest, meaning Circa, put the Colts as the favorite because I think they're going to be bet up as the week goes on. But 1 point, it's a pick'em game basically. So I think Arizona. I think the Colts are going to win. So let's do it.
Right on.
Here we go. Colts forever. All right. So we've got the next game. This is on the Sunday slate, 1:00 games. Tampa's going to Carolina. We just mentioned Tampa's woes, but they open as an 11-point favorite on the road at Carolina, 48.5-point total. 10 points in the contest, 44-point total. I'm assuming that went down with all this news. It's a big number. God, I don't know about this Carolina team. I don't understand this team. Like, sometimes they play good, sometimes they play like crap. I'm assuming Cam's going to play, or I don't even know if PJ Washington. It's like these guys can't pick a starter, which would make it a lot easier to make a handicap here. But to your point, one thing that Carolina has done well is played pretty good defense, especially against the run. You figure the Bucs have to run the ball with all these weapons missing, but I don't know if I can get a word on the contest with Carolina plus the 10.
Yeah, I know. I have the same sentiment too. I have no interest in the Bucs at that inflated price without their offensive weapons. I think the biggest loss for them is going to be Fournette in the passing game because Brady has been looking to him out of the backfield, and his backup Ronald Jones just can't catch the ball. So I do think that the value lies with Carolina here, but how can you get behind a Cam Newton-led football team right now? I certainly can't. I read again that Matt Rule is going to start Newton, but suggested that Sam Darnold could get some snaps too. So it's like, great.
Yeah, thanks for that. I mean, I know he's trying to play games with the defense, but they're like, we don't care who starts for you guys. It's just, can we score enough points against you? So good stay away, it sounds like to me, action. Yeah. All right, the next game it's a big game, I guess, for Philadelphia, not for the Giants. Giants go to Philly. Philly opened as a 9-point favorite at home, 43.5-point total. It's 9.5 in the contest, down to 40.5. So this is one of these situations, action. And do we know, is the Giraffe starting? Do we know if the Giraffe is starting?
That's correct. Yeah, Daniels is out for this year, or just Daniel Jones rather.
The Giraffe is our favorite, Mike Glennon, tall guy, long neck. So this team, the Giants aren't good. They're not good. The Eagles obviously won the battle last week, and they played good against Washington when they had nobody. So the number is right where it should be, right? It's just a lot of points, man, for the Eagles. I can't back the Giraffe, but I mean, we're going to have to pick one of these big spreads. It seems like this week they're either really tight spreads or really big spreads. There's nothing in the middle. There's no 5 or 6 pointers. There's all 7+ and 1s. But what are your thoughts on this Eagles game?
Yeah, I think I definitely would lean to the Eagles here. They are going to be without head coach Sirianni, who tested positive on the COVID list. And so I have a little bit of concern that there may be more to follow there, especially potentially some of the quarterbacks. So something that I want to monitor a little bit. But I do think that Philadelphia is going to be set up to have a lot of success in this game. Defensively, stopping Mike Glennon should be no problem. I do think that Jake Fromm perhaps could get a few snaps as well on that side of the ball. But the Giants haven't been able to stop the run this year, and Philly is going to line up to do that with Hurts and Miles Sanders. So I think that Philly could put up a lot of points in this game.
Okay. Would you take it? Would you take him in a contest?
Yeah, I think you should consider it. I certainly would lean to a yellow here, especially at 9.5 to getting a little bit of value under that 10-point spread.
Full disclosure, I do have the game at 11, but it just seems like a huge number.
Yeah.
Got to make good picks at some point. So let's put a yellow, one to consider.
Okay.
All right, so here's the next game we kind of mentioned already. The Chargers are going to Houston. The Chargers are 10.5-point favorites on the road, 45.5-point total in the opener. That's the same in the contest, 10.5. It's really the same, except, a little bit, the market says 10. We just mentioned that Houston has a lot of guys on the COVID list. The Chargers are still in the mix in the playoffs. They're in the playoffs, I believe, as of today. They really have to win this game. They can't lose to Houston. I've got the game at 9 for the index, so it's not that far off. It's pretty close. 10.5 is a tough number, but, what do we think? You think they're going to go down there and roll these Texans?
Yeah, I do. I think this is one of the big spreads that I would probably look to target this week. The Chargers, coming off that tough loss in the divisional game last week to Kansas City, need to get back on the right track to maintain their wild card status. And I think I was reading that Eckler is questionable, but I think that he's going to play, and I think it's going to be a big day for him and their offense. I would probably look to back the Chargers.
Do you think it'll be a popular pick in a contest with the COVID?
Yeah, I do. I do think that there's probably going to be some folks that look to follow here just because of the massive list of Houston Texans. I mean, this is a team that was already rated pretty low as it was, and now they're losing a whole slew of players. They're going to be downgraded tremendously. And then on top of that, I think the motivation is certainly a question mark as well.
Yeah, I agree. I got them as the third worst team in the league. So, all right, let's put it. Should we put yellow or green on this one?
Let's color it yellow. I think something I'd like to read into a little bit more before we put it in pen.
Yeah, I mean, I just do think, and it's okay if we, last week we had 3 picks with the contest with the field, so it worked out for us. We still were able to move up and get those picks, but we're just trying to be conscious of that as we go forward because I do think it'll be popular.
Yeah.
The next 1:00 game is Detroit against Atlanta. Atlanta is opening as a 6.5-point favorite, 44-point total at home. It's 5.5 in the contest, 42.5-point total. The news about Jared Goff does affect this game. I was kind of on the Lions initially, mainly because, look, Atlanta beats bad teams. They get crushed by good teams. It's kind of that's their handicap this year. So I think even though Detroit has improved in the metrics, you still got to consider them a bad team, right? So the Falcons, should be favored here. But initially, when I was looking at that 6.5, 5.5, I'm like, well, I mean, the Lions have played really good besides the flu game, but without Goff, I mean, you gotta downgrade him, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a huge downgrade. They're still going to be without DeAndre Swift this week too. I do think Jamal Williams should be back, but now they've got a few other players banged up. Khalif Raymond, the wide receiver, and Josh Reynolds, who had a big game last week, is questionable as well. So I think the Falcons, like you said, they like to beat up on bad teams, and on their side of the ball, they're going to be healthy with Cordarrelle Patterson and Kyle Pitts, and Matt Ryan has been pretty good this year. All things told, he's learned a new offense, and they have been able to move the ball. So I think that I would consider taking the Falcons here, laying the 5.5.
Another yellow on the board. Boy, we got a lot of yellows so far. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I think this is kind of a spot that makes sense, and maybe it'll be a lower pick game just because they're not as exciting a team.
Yeah.
Well, let's move to this big one. We've already mentioned this like twice already. Baltimore's going to Cincinnati. Battle for the AFC North crown here. If Cincinnati wins, they essentially win a division. So they open as a 2.5-point favorite at home, 44.5-point total. They're 3-point favorites in the contest with the same total in the market here. I have the Bengals as a better team, not by a lot, but they are better, especially the way they played. I do think Huntley's adding an element here, but it's tough, man. I mean, I don't know how the home field advantage. They're basically 3 points on a neutral. I've got 5 on 5 at home if they were getting some home field advantage. So I do think the number is good for Cincinnati. But I don't know, man. This team, we backed them a few times, and they did come through last week against the Broncos. But will they turn the ball over? I mean, if this team doesn't turn the ball over, they win. It's pretty simple, and you can't predict necessarily. But Baltimore, I mean, God, John Harbaugh's such a great coach. And they're always in the mix, man. They're always in the mix. But the Bengals did house them last time in Baltimore, so It seems like everything's pointing to the Bengals, but usually that's when we go the opposite way. That's when action pick makes me go the opposite way.
Yeah, it's true. This one's really hard, and ultimately, I think it's probably a game we should pass on. But I think the Bengals are going to be able to have some success through the air. The Baltimore secondary is still in shambles without Marcus Peters and Marlon Humphrey. Jimmy Smith and Westry and Chuck Clark are still on the COVID list, although I think there's a chance some of them could test out. But
Sure.
I thought it was impressive last week that the Ravens were able to shut down
Aaron Jones.
the wide receiver, Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams didn't really have a big game.
No, he didn't.
The Packers still put up a lot of points on them, but I think that the Ravens might have a similar game plan for Jamar Chase this week and shut down the Cincinnati star wide receiver a little bit. So I do lean to the Bengals, but I think it's going to be another heavy pick game and consider passing potentially.
I'm okay with that. Because really, effectively, Baltimore has to win this game. These are all these I've said this throughout the season. There's certain games that they have to win. They've lost 3 straight. They have to win the game. So now that doesn't mean that they won't make the playoffs if they lose it, but it knocks them out of the division, and they're in jeopardy of missing out. Right? I mean, this whole division is stacked within like a game. And so, Baltimore has to right the ship. I mean, you got to look back and say those decisions to go for 2 are really costing you here and there. Maybe could have gone to overtime here and there. But in the end, I don't mind passing. Because like you said, I think it's going to be a hotly picked game. Cincinnati's a sharp darling. Everybody loves this team.
Yeah, true.
All right, a couple more games in the 1 o'clock window. There's a big 1 o'clock window on Sunday. We've got the Rams going to Minnesota. The Rams open as a 3.5-point favorite on the road, 48.5-point total. In the contest, it's 49.5-point total. Obviously the Rams have found something after, I guess, their bye probably, and they've definitely played better the last 2 weeks. Minnesota's right on the cusp as well in the playoffs. The Rams actually can take the division if they keep winning, especially if, like, the Colts knocked off Arizona here. So I understand why they're favored. I just kind of feel like now that you mentioned the 2 running backs are out, that might be tough for Minnesota. Originally, I was like, oh, Minnesota all the way. They're kind of an up and down team, but I kind of like the Rams in this one now. I'm not sure if I'd love it in the contest, but I do think that's a little short number, actually, according to my numbers.
Yeah, and now since the news yesterday about Dalvin Cook broke, you've seen it tick out to 3.5. So
Right.
It definitely, and rightfully so, the running backs being out are a big loss for the Vikings. But I, like you, was interested in backing them before that news, and now I think it's probably more of a pass. I'm not sure I can flip to the Rams side.
That's fine. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it. I like having some passes once in a while. When we have too many decisions to make on Saturday, it's tough.
Yeah.
Can I interest you in a Jags-Jets game?
No.
We'll review it for our listeners because I know everybody wants to bet on the D-Gens out there listening. So we've got the Jets open as a 1.5-point favorite at home, 41-point total. It's now down to a pick in the contest, but in the market, it's kind of both sides. You don't know who's going to back here. So 41.5-point total. This is a messy game, ugly game, boring game probably. I've got this rated pretty much about right. Jets maybe the favorite here, but kind of a who cares game. You have no lean whatsoever or any on the total either?
I mean, I would definitely look at the under given all of the COVID issues that are going on both sides, and the Jaguars have been killer to the under this season. I think they
don't score.
Yeah, 11-3 to the under Jacksonville this season. So I definitely would lean that way. But in terms of the side, I think it's a straight up pass. I was interested in the Jets, but the COVID opt-outs are going to be massive, and I definitely don't want to back the Jaguars.
Yeah, okay. Pass. Week 16 equals pass. All right, well, here's the last one on the 1 o'clock window. I'm glad this was the last one showing up here. You've got Buffalo going to the Patriots. New England opens a 2.5-point favorite at home, 44-point total. Now it's 2 in the contest for the Patriots at home, 43.5-point total. It is wavering between that 2 and 2.5. I'm all over the Bills, bro. Revenge. Now, wait. We know that the Patriots obviously have the formula to beat them with running the football. and Mac Jones did play really well in the fourth quarter, not great in the first quarters, but I don't know. I just felt when they played last time, if it wasn't for the win, the Buffalo would have won, maybe not easily, but they would have definitely scored more points. And I think the number is probably, well, it's actually not right. I think it should be more like a pick, but I think there's value there with the Bills here. I don't know what your thoughts are.
I go to the other side here. I like the Patriots again in this matchup. I mean, initially you would have leaned that way, and I think the public will too, to the Buffalo side. They got to get their revenge, and this is effectively the AFC East championship game.
It is.
But the injury reports on both sides have leaned to the Patriots. They're set to get back Damian Harris, the stud running back. He's practiced twice this week.
Right.
And I think they proved in the last game that the Bills just can't stop them on the ground. And I believe that they're going to just pound the rock again. Now, will Mac Jones throw it more than 3 times? Probably. But I don't think that the Bills are going to be able to stop them again. I'm not sure miraculously that they're going to be able to stop the Patriots running game. So the weather does favor them a little bit. I think initially it was looking like some rain and wind, which probably would have been a little difficult for the Bills to wrap their minds around.
Right.
But on the other side, the Bills have played Gabe Davis and the tight end, I forget his name now. Knox are both on the COVID list, and I think that is another downgrade for the Bills offense.
I think Beasley's out too. Right?
Yeah, Beasley. Yep, and Beasley. So they've lost some of their guys on offense too, and I think we did see the Bills and Josh Allen move the ball on them last time. But without those receivers, will they be able to be as efficient? I'm not sure.
I just, and I hear you. I hear what you're saying. I just think it's going to be a Josh Allen game. I mean, he's just going to run this time. He's going to say, F it. I'm going to throw it around. I'm going to run it around. And I don't think they had a real answer for him last time. It just was, there were some drops and the wind was crazy. But no, you're right. I mean, if they're missing some weapons, I can see that. But, looks like a stay away for us in the contest action. It's not that I can't get on board with New England. Mm-hmm. I guess I just have a feeling the Bills are going to win this one, but that's not based on pure fact. So there you go.
Okay. We can see how things shake out between now and tomorrow morning too. I mean,
sure.
I do think though that there's going to be a lot of picks on the Bills in the contest.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so 4:00 window, Chicago going to Seattle. Woo, whippy. Seattle opened as a 7-point favorite at home, 44.5 point total. They're down to, 6.5 in the contest, between 42.5 and a 43 point total for Seattle here. It's too many points for Seattle to lay. The Bears suck. I mean, they suck. We all know they suck. But I don't think Seattle's any great shakes either. I mean, sorry, Ridgeway, but 6.5. When have they covered this number all year? And they haven't. And I know the Bears, but they're not that much different in the ratings. So I either stay away. I don't think I could get on the Bears, but I mean that is an index pick, the Bears. But God, I'd be throwing it up in the back of my throat there.
Yeah, that could be a hold your nose and take it kind of thing. The problem that throws me is Justin Fields and his injury designation. He's got an ankle injury and was a DNP at practice yesterday. So if it's Andy Dalton, I'm not sure I'm interested in the Bears at all.
Oh, the Bears. I mean, Nagy's a dead man walking. We all know that now, thankfully. Mm-hmm. So I'm happy to pass on that one action. I mean, Hopefully be pleasantly surprised if the Bears, cover and win the game somehow. All right, what about this one? Pittsburgh against Kansas City. Kansas City opened as a 9.5 point favorite, 48 point total. It's 7 now for the Kansas City at home, 46 point total, but the market is at 9.5 and 10 still. Is that right? So what is going on here? What is I see 8.5 at Rivers. So it's not Tyreek Hill. Are there other people injured for the Colts that are affecting this number?
For the Steelers, you mean, or on the Chiefs side?
Well, the number. Okay, so what I'm saying is, Circa's making a decision because the market it started at 9.5. I see it 8.5. You're showing 9.5, 10. So it's definitely a good number for the Chiefs at 7 compared to the market.
Right.
do you think that Circa's making a decision that because Hill's out and Kelsey is on the COVID list, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they both are.
That they're going to basically, I mean, if they're both out, of course that's going to hurt their chances. But I don't know. I mean, the Steelers, we know the Mike Tomlin angle. Oh, he covers big numbers and blah, blah, blah. And they're still in the playoff mix. I don't trust the Steelers team at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I think it would be Chiefs or pass for me, especially at this number.
Right.
But I believe that the number was selected with in mind that there could be some more news that's going to come out of the Chiefs camp. I've heard some rumblings that the COVID bug might be a little bit wider spread than the current list shows right now. And if there's more folks that are out, the Chiefs could be in some dire straits. I mean, without those two weapons, too, they're certainly not quite as dynamic on offense.
That's for sure.
The Steelers are primed to be taken advantage of, though. It seems, though, that the Chiefs should be able to have some success against them. But the question is, can he do it with the backups?
Right. Fair question. Ugh. Yeah. Boy, this is why it makes this contest hard, makes the NFL hard. I mean, this is, man, when I saw 7 for the Chiefs, I'm like, lock it in.
Yeah.
And now you're giving me but no, you're right. I mean, you're right. I mean, it's tough. I mean,
I would propose that we keep this one yellow because I think it could be a sneaky good contrarian pick too if we kind of go against the COVID news because it's still a good team. And as long as Mahomes is out there, I have faith that they can cover.
Yeah.
So,
you got what is his name? Byron Pringle. Yeah. Pringle out there. You could get
Pringle, Josh Gordon. It hasn't hit the list yet, miraculously. And the running backs, I mean,
there and Williams.
Yeah. So I think we should consider the Chiefs. Maybe watch the news cycle between now and tomorrow.
Right. Okay. Let's see. The last in the 4:00 window is Denver, which we already talked about, Drew Lock, but Denver's going to the Raiders. It opened as a pick, and Raiders at home pick. It's still a pick in the contest. It's a 41.5 point total, really low total. I mean, this game probably 5 weeks ago would have been much higher. Drew Lock, God, I was all over Denver. Now Drew Lock, God, that sucks. Because Denver's a better football team than the Raiders, but he definitely put some variability in the mix. And I know our proxy loves the Raiders here, but God, it's so many stayaways this week. Actually, I don't like it.
You don't think you would just go auto fade Drew Lock straight to the Raiders?
No. I mean, was Waller playing?
I was just pulling up the injury report. I think that he's probably still out.
I mean, the Raiders. I gotta look at their game log real quick. This Raiders team. Sorry, proxy.
Darren Waller questionable with an IT band strain.
Yeah,
never heard of that injury.
Yeah. Besides this, okay. So let's even before. Okay, let's just. This is their game log since their bye week. Okay. Lost to the Giants, scoring 16 points. Lost to the Chiefs, scoring 14 points. Lost to the Bengals, scoring 13 points. They finally scored a bunch against the Cowboys. They scored 36 somehow. Lost at home to Washington, 15 points. Lost to the Chiefs, 9 points. They won last week, 16 points against the Browns, who had no one. The Broncos defense is pretty solid. I mean, you certainly can't back them. I can't back them in this situation. I mean, they're going to score 15 points or less.
You're right.
The Broncos score 15 points or more. The answer is yes. It's just only if there's pick sixes by Drew Lock. So to me, it's Denver pass. I can't take Raiders here.
Well, I mean, they certainly still have the dynamic running back, Javonte Williams. And, I mean, you're right when you look at this Vegas scoreline here. What do you think about motivation for Vegas? They're at home. We talked about the Christmas, being at home on Christmas Day.
Right.
Do you think that the Raiders have thrown in the towel on the season?
I mean, no. I mean, they won last week, but let's see. They're still in the mix. I mean, they're 10th. They're 7-7. They're really only a game back of the playoffs. They are. What are they in the conference? They're 5-4 in the conference. I mean, any good coach would say you're right there because
Mm-hmm.
Ravens actually were out of the playoffs. You know, there's only one spot. I mean, the Chargers and the Bills. The Bills could lose. They're right there. I mean, they should
Yeah.
be motivated, but
Okay.
I mean, the Broncos are the same exact position, 7-7, and it's like on a neutral field, which it's not like the Raiders have a home field advantage.
True.
These teams, the Broncos are better. It's just Drew Lock. So he's a handicap, and that's what makes me a little squeamish, as they say.
Well, I mean, I think we should consider it. It could be a contrarian pick, without a doubt. I would imagine the Broncos are going to be very low picked.
Oh yeah, of course. Drew Lock, of course. All right.
Let's highlight that one yellow. We come back to it tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good. All right, the primetime games. The first one should have been a good game, but too many problems. But Washington going to Dallas. Dallas opened as a 9.5-point favorite, 48-point total. It's 10.5 in the contest, which is kind of the market right now. And the total's a little bit down between 46.5 and 47. It's my beloved Washington football team, which they're going to have a new name next year, by the way, actually. They're going to have revealed it. I don't know what it's going to be, but anyway, it's their last stand, but I think Dallas is going to pummel them. Maybe not 10.5, but I mean, I've got this game at like 16. I mean, it's not. I don't know if I can get on board with the 10.5-point spread, but Washington, they just failed me. They looked good for a minute, and then Heineke and the gang, they just not enough health on that team.
I like Washington in this game. Taylor Heineke news came out this morning that Heineke has been upgraded and looks like he's going to go on Sunday night. And Dallas has had great numbers, but I think a lot of it has to do with turnovers.
Yep.
And on the offensive side of the ball, Dak has not been impressive lately. They haven't really been putting up big numbers on the scoring side over there. And so I think that this 10.5-point spread might be a little bit too much for them to cover. I really like the under in this game. And I've bet the Cowboys team total under as well. And I think that if the Cowboys can only get to 20, 24 points, it's going to be hard to cover 10.5. So I do like Washington, and I think it could be somewhat contrarian as well.
Definitely contrarian, I'll give you that. Obviously, they played 2 weeks ago. So let's walk through the injuries. So Heineke's going to be back. Mm-hmm. Is Gibson going to play? I heard he was dinged up.
I'm not seeing him on the injury report.
Okay, that's good. That's good to hear because I thought he was a little.
Sorry, you're right. Questionable with the toe.
Right.
Yet to be established if he'll battle the Cowboys on Sunday.
Are they getting back the defensive line? The guys that were all out last week, Jonathan Allen and all those guys.
Yeah, I don't see any of the D linemen on here.
Okay. Well, let's put it as a yellow. Let's put it as a yellow. We can talk about it. Look, this is Washington's last stand for the playoffs. They lose here, they're out. They win, they still have a chance. They still have a pulse. I mean, it's not like, again, in the NFC, it's the same thing. 7-7 is the cut line. If you believe the Rams are going to beat the Vikes, the Eagles will probably win. They jump in. Saints, who knows? So they're right there. There's a lot of mediocrity over there in the NFC. So they can still do it. And let's look at the remaining schedule. They play the Eagles again and the Giants. It's all the division. I mean, they got to win, but they lose, and I'll be fading them the rest of the season. So we'll see. Let's talk about it. Yellow.
Okay. That sounds good.
Monday night game, Miami against New Orleans. New Orleans opens a 3.5-point favorite at home, 40-point total. Right now, you've got a pick 'em because of what we talked about at the quarterback with Ian Book. And the total's like 38.5 to 39. I mean, Jesus, dude. Yeah.
Going down.
Yeah. Elevator going down. So why wouldn't you pick the Dolphins in this spot?
I mean, it seems like it's the play, doesn't it? I'm not really sure what to expect out of Ian Book. You have to figure that Coach Flores and the defensive coaches are going to have a game plan lined up for him to give him some trouble. But the question is, on the Saints defense, are they going to be able to stop the Dolphins? I mean, we saw that impressive outing last week against Tom Brady and the Bucs, which is reason for the total going down. Quarterbacks on one side, excellent defense. So under certainly in play here, but I think, though, that it might be prudent just to stay away because I think the Dolphins are going to be pretty heavy picked just because of the COVID news. And maybe we go against that and get lucky and the Saints somehow get the back door.
Right. I mean, it is a pick, right? So the Saints to win. I'm actually Rivers. The Dolphins are 2.5 point favorites now. Just there's value, but so that's why people will take it. I agree with you. Everybody's going to pick this game, so it's okay to stay away. Let everybody, and then we're just big Ian Book fans. Book it. We used to say it on the 2 years. Check the podcast 2 years ago. Book it. He won so many games there, and they're just going to give the ball to Kamara, right? Just let him do his work. So you're right. It's about Tua and the defense. Waddle is back. He's their dynamic player for Dolphins. Their running backs are back again. So, yeah, I'm fine to stay away if you want.
I mean, we'll talk about it here in the next segment, but given our position in the contest here, I think our goal is to make a move in the last 3 weeks and try to get in that top 50 and make some money. Yes. And I really believe the only way that we're going to be able to make that happen is to try to find some games that are less picked.
Agreed. And it worked out last week, your Detroit Lions. Congratulations.
Yep.
So, okay. Sounds good. Let's do it. All right, let's review what we've got here in terms of the picks. We feel great about the Colts. That's our green. That's Colts -1 in the contest against Arizona, even though they're a dog if you find them on the board elsewhere. Philadelphia -9.5 at home against the Giants. Chargers -10.5 on the road against Houston. That's also COVID related. Atlanta, the mighty Atlanta Falcons, -5.5, a really highly picked game against Detroit at home. We're talking about Kansas City -7. We'll have to check the news. This is against Pittsburgh. That's a tough one because of missing their two top weapons. Denver over the Raiders, just kind of my feeling about those teams. That's at the Raiders, but it's a pick 'em in that game, picking Denver. And then Ashton loves Washington plus the 10.5 against the Cowboys. What's the name of the dog again?
Levi. He really likes Washington
too. The Washington football team, and the dog's barking in that one. So thank you, Levi. All right, but that's some good selections there, Ashton.
Yeah, I think we have some good ones to chat about tomorrow. Definitely going to monitor the COVID list and see if we can get some more public betting splits in the conversation tomorrow morning. And we'll be able to make it happen again. Shooting for 5-0, 2 in a row.
5-0, 2 in a row. Good transition action. So, yes, we went 5-0 last week. The side action vaulted up into 368th place. So just to let you guys know how that works, I monitor the whole thing, how we're doing against it. That's actually about as good as we've done this season so far. Even week 2, we were about this stage when we were early on. So big move with the 5-0. Puts us at 44-30-1, which is 59.33% action. That's great. We always target 60%. The problem is this damn contest. There's so many good players out there. The top dog is at 55-20. That's 73.33%. Maybe we can get that, but we're really targeting the top 50, which is 49-26, 65.33%. I do think that final cut line will be closer to 63-ish%. That's why I do believe we can go 10.5, 10.5 more points over the last 3 weeks, which is 10-4-1. We can still get in the cash.
I like it. I like your projection of the cut line too. I think it's spot on. And I think that we're certainly capable of hitting 10.5 over the next 3 weeks. So we just got to make it happen.
Just got to do it. Just take it, day by day, week by week, and figure out the news. So obviously 5-0 is a great output. We've done that the last 3 seasons, but we've had more 4-1s this year. That's why we're doing better. We're actually 4 picks better than we were at this stage last year, action, just to let you know. So
nice.
Feeling good. Let's keep it rolling and make it happen. So excellent. Well, we'll check in again tomorrow, action, and I'm excited both for the contest and obviously have a little holiday time off and enjoy the family. I know your dad is a loyal listener, so maybe he can chime in and give you some advice before our picks tomorrow.
Yeah, he told me yesterday he's been super hot. He's won like 10 bets in a row, sticking with what he knows. The Colts, the Hoosiers, the Boilermakers, Big Ten basketball. But we'll see what he thinks about that Colts pick.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, everybody. Well, Merry Christmas, everybody. If you celebrate, happy holidays. Otherwise, follow us at Side Action Pod on Twitter. Follow me at Wegspool on Twitter and Instagram.
And follow me on Twitter at 31S Roberts.
All right. Good luck, everybody.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Side Action Podcast. We appreciate all of your listens and thank you for joining us. We'll see you all again next week on Thursday for some more hot picks and side action. Side Action Podcast, its owners and associates take no responsibility for the opinions or statements made by the show hosts or their guests. Statements or show topics are not necessarily the beliefs of this podcast, and opinions between talk show hosts may conflict. Individuals following the advice given on the podcast accept their own risk of losses from wagers made. As the Side Action Podcast, its owners, hosts, associates, or guests will not guarantee any advice given. The opinions and advice given on the Side Action Podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Intro and outro and transition music credits. Song titles Jerry 5 and District 4 by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.org. Licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 3.0. creativecommons.org/licenses/by 3.0.